This episode is brought to you by DistroKid. Hey gang, today's guest is Jorge Casillas, bass guitarist for the Riverside, California ska punk band Voodoo Glow Skulls. Together we break down the writing, recording, and inspiration behind the 1995 fan favorite song, Shoot the Moon, taken from their second full-length album and first for Epitaph Records, Fear May. The track was produced by Garth Richardson, known for his work with Rage Against the Machine and Rise Against. Garth had the band set up through a huge PA, and he recorded the basic tracks live, overdubbing the vocals and horns after the fact. George mentioned that the horns were edited through the use of computers, something that was very new technology at the time. And nobody sounds like Voodoo Glow Skulls. The vocal delivery is one part barking, one part shouting, one part rapping, topped off with a percussive bite. Super cool. Oh, and who knew that the band were prophets of sorts, able to predict the future? Well, I didn't. And that's exactly what they did in verse 2 of this song. You're just gonna have to stick around to find out. So for all this and a whole lot more, don't touch that dial.
Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast. Hey, have you heard? Krista makes a podcast.
George, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, man?
I am doing awesome. It's been a while. We've been trying to connect. We've connected a lot in the last couple years. Less Than Jake and Voodoo's been doing a bunch of stuff together, and this episode's going to air after this happens, but a big congratulations is in order to you guys. It turns out that Ezra, the singer for Vampire Weekend, is a huge fan of ska punk, and the band requested to have you guys open a show for them at the Hollywood Bowl on June 12th. That is awesome. Congrats.
Thank you very much, man. Yeah, it's totally a surprise to us. We didn't expect it. We just got a phone call from our agent, out of the blue one day while we were on the road, I think, and just said, hey, the band Vampire Weekend is requesting you guys see if you're available to open up a show at the Hollywood Bowl. They had a new record coming out, and we're touring on it, and specifically asked for us, I guess, at the Hollywood show. And we were blown away, man. It's to us, for a ska punk band, it just unexpected. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think the longer, I was talking to my guys about this recently, I think the longer that we go along in our respective careers, any of us, that if we keep slogging it out, toughing it out, the more opportunities happen. We're finding businesses that want to work with us now because, they were a fan 20 years ago. They're still a fan, but now they're a CEO of a company. And hey, we want to do a collaboration with you guys. Things that never in a million years we ever would have thought would happen to the band. So the gifts keep on coming.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, totally. It's totally like that too. We're coming of age where our fans are coming of age, like you said, where they're running companies and stuff. And like you said, we've gotten to do some cool collaborations, and they just keep on coming. You know what I mean? It's really awesome, man. To reap the benefits of all the years that our bands have put in.
Yeah, and I've talked to guys about this that even have years on us. I've talked to some of the early punk bands, Descendants, Black Flag guys, Circle Jerks guys, and, they made no money for the first 15 years of their band out there, and never in a million years thinking that, oh, wow, eventually there's going to be enough people that this could be a successful thing. So I keep getting surprised all the time. For everyone listening out there, you guys were on the forefront of the ska punk thing. I mean, 1988, you guys formed, put out some 7-inches. You were on compilations galore. And in 93, you put out Who Is This Is on Dr. Strange Records. And that's the record I heard from you guys. And I hadn't heard anything like it. Your music was right up my alley at that point. It was aggressive, but you guys also had a different element to you. You had, your brother, Frank, his delivery was unlike anybody else's. It was almost like part rap. It was guttural. It was percussive in his delivery. And then add in the Hispanic accent with it. It was unlike anything I had ever heard before.
Right. Yeah. Definitely that consistent, bark, cutting through on the vocals, and the spitting, the flow, you know what I mean? even like Ephraim, says, man, your brother Frank was a G with his delivery on the lyrics, man. Just bam, 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 and definitely had a lot to say.
Well, as a younger person, if someone would have said to me, and this is going back, if I was 8 or 9, 10 years old, like, can that guy sing? Okay, to what your brother was doing, I'd be like, no, he's just kind of screaming. As a musician, as I've gotten older, and I talk to Ephraim, and for everybody, Ephraim Schulz is now the lead singer for Voodoo Glow Skulls. He also sings for Death by Stereo. I've known Ephraim for, forever. And I said to him, how hard was it to learn that catalog? He said, it was insane. And Ephraim's good. He's really good. He can sing. He's a great front man. He knows how to project. He knows how to, to reach for notes. And he told me it was a tough gig. I don't think a lot of guys could have stepped into those shoes.
Yeah. And we're very fortunate to have had Ephraim step in because, I couldn't think of of a better person to step in. And it was just kind of a fluky thing. He reached out to my brother Eddie. He happened to be hanging out with the guys from the band DFL, who we've known forever. And they just kind of mentioned to Ephraim, hey, did you hear that Frank retired from Voodoo? And Ephraim was like, oh, man, that's crazy. I'm going to give those guys a call and just kind of say what's up, and say if you guys ever decide to, keep playing or come back, let's play some shows together. Well, he reached out to Eddie, and I guess it turned out, into him coming and trying out. And because we still had fulfillments that we had like already booked, we had a Canadian tour, US tour. We had It's Not Dead Festival, which was like,
right.
Ephraim's first show with us was in front of like 10 or 15,000 people.
Just throw them into the fire.
Yeah. And we didn't know what to expect, I'm sure, it was like a nervous moment for him. You know what I mean?
Well, again, replacing a lead singer for any band is tough, but in this situation, I was reading somewhere recently that Serge Tankian from System, he told his band a couple years ago, look, I'm not touring, guys. If you want to get somebody else, like, how do you replace that guy?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's the same thing with your brother. It's so unique and so good. The song we're going to talk about today, Shoot the Moon, is from 1995's Firme record, which came out October 10th of 95. It's song number 1 on the record out of 16, engineered by my friend Steve Kravac. He also engineered Hello Rockview from Less Than Jake and produced Less Than Jake's Borders and Boundaries. And the album was produced by Garth Richardson. Garth's done, just about everything. Rage Against the Machine, Testament, Avenged Sevenfold, Rise Against L7, From Autumn to Ashes, Voodoo Glow Skulls. In 1997, we did the Snowcore tour together, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was great, man. I remember almost every show of that, man. It was just such a good era, and such a fun tour,
It was us Face to Face, Voodoo Glow Skulls, couple other bands. Before that, I wanted to mention to you guys, you're the first band that I had ever seen pull up in a tour bus. We played with you in Daytona in 1994, and I was like, these guys are superstars. They're in a tour bus. It was unbelievable to us. And, that's something that has always stuck out.
Right. Yeah. No, back then, we had a little bit more of a budget, obviously. We were on Epitaph and, people always assumed, the record label paid for the bus, but that wasn't the case.
No.
We just got lucky because Boss Tones, obviously were, they were big. They had videos on MTV, songs on the radio. And we were kind of nipping at their heels. And, we were getting compared a lot to them, let's say. Even though, in my opinion, both bands don't really sound that similar, They have their own thing going on. And
absolutely.
And we just were like blown away because they were like, well, let's take these guys on tour. So they took us on tour. And at that time, we were already doing good on our own, sound out clubs and stuff like that. But they were at the next level already.
Oh, yeah.
They decided to take us on tour, and we went on tour with them, across the U.S., and it was amazing. Those guys taught us a lot about, showed us the ropes on that level, let's say,
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Oh, yeah, man. And they were really great shows because they were at their peak, and then we had the hype from our Who Is This Is record, and we were in the process of signing an Epitaph. And we met their tour bus driver, who was this guy who happened to have just started his own bus company. And he liked us a lot. We got to know him on that tour. And after the Boss Tones tour, we were asked to go on the Offspring tour. And Chin, paying attention to the band, saw the announcement for the Offspring tour and said, hey, guys, I got some downtime after this Boss Tones tour. and I see you guys are going out with the Offspring. I'll give you guys a killer discount on the bus, if you guys want to take a bus. So we jumped at the opportunity because he gave us such a good discount, man, that we couldn't pass it up.
I had complete envy. It wasn't jealousy. It was just like, man, if we could ever get in a bus someday, I was never like jealous in that sense of other bands. I was just like, I couldn't fathom how a band connected the dots and got there. It was so impressive to a young band. It left a big impression.
Oh, right. Yeah, dude. Like I think a lot of people get, the wrong impression sometimes of other bands. And it's like you're saying, not really a jealous thing. Like I look at big bands like, let's say Ska P, for instance, right?
Yeah.
These guys are headlining stadiums, and to me, that's like, wow, we can get to that now. You know what I mean? Like a band like us can do that now.
Yeah, and Ska P is not a household name in the United States.
No.
If you go over, they're an Italian band that I want to say their biggest market's in France, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and like you just said, it's stadiums. It's insane.
Yeah, man. And like bands from Mexico, like Inspector, doing stadiums. Even bands like Los Carnales, like in the U.S., playing clubs just like everybody else. But then they go down south of the border, man. They're playing stadiums.
I know. That band High Standard from Japan. They play stadiums there. They are superstars and come to the U.S. and play to 300 kids. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah. But to me, it's like. That tells me, like even you guys, man, like what you guys do. Like we were fortunate enough to get on one of your guys' tours. I think through the UK, I want to say.
Yeah, I got that in the notes here. We did a bunch of sporadic stuff after 97. We did some shows on the 98 Warped Tour. And then in 2001, it was called Extreme Fest.
There you go.
What a weird bill this was. It was Voodoo Glow Skulls, Less Than Jake, the Ataris, Pitch Shifter, the Vandals, 311, and the UK ska punk band Sponge, not the American rock band Sponge.
Yep, I remember that well, man, because, you guys, like I said, you guys hooked us up. You guys put us on that tour, and we were walking into huge rooms, man. You guys were killing it.
We had our moment then, and it was really weird for us because I don't know if you remember, George, but 311 was all over the radio in America with Amber, that ballad. And it was a massive song, and they couldn't get arrested in England. The whole surf beach thing didn't really make it over there.
Right. Yeah. And our bands have been around 311 a long time. You know what I mean?
Yes.
From almost the beginning to now. And, it's 311, they're huge. And I don't know if you know this, but after that tour in the UK, us and them split off to go to Europe to do a couple shows.
I remember that.
Yeah, we were more established, so we were headlining. And then I think they headlined Paris, I want to say. And we played, and it was just crickets afterwards, And like I said, they had the Adam Sandler soundtrack. They were all over the radio, but that's just the way it goes, in places and for some bands, And it kind of surprised me because I know our bands have been to the UK and all over Europe too many times to mention. You know what I mean? Like too many times to count. And I think 311 just posted they're going back for the first time since then.
I saw that. Yes. Yeah. And that's interesting. And I think that's just enough times passed that enough people have gotten older. They've had kids and they possibly could go over there and have it be viable now.
Yeah.
A couple more things. We did the Flogging Molly cruise in 2017 with you guys. And of course, last year, 2023, we got together and that was the first time we had toured with Ephraim as him being your lead singer last summer. We had a ball with you guys, man.
Yeah, that was a blast, man. Thank you guys again for taking us on that. That was like, we needed that, man. Definitely very welcome to run the shows with you guys.
And not taking anything. I told this to the guys and not saying this because you're sitting here in front of me. I told the guys, wow. I said, we got to go out and work tonight. That whatever the first show was with you guys, I mean, you brought it and the crowd went nuts, and most of these places we play, they're not very well air conditioned. So, I don't want the crowd to go too nuts before I got on stage. I still have to play an hour and a half. So it was cool to be challenged as a band, to have to go out there and work a little bit. It was refreshing. We're going to jump into the song right now. 3 minutes and 14 seconds. I love this song the first time I heard it. I was a first day buyer of the record. Put it on, first track. I'm like, this is awesome. The intro is 16 bars. There's a 4 count of a hi-hat. And then we're joined by drums, bass, stereo guitars, and a good mix of trombone, trumpet, and saxophone. I know you were touring with 3 horns at that time. Am I hearing all 3 of those here?
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought so. It was a little tough to hear exactly what was going on because the horns are panned. Really cool mix of the panning here, though. It's like left, right, and just off center. One of the horns on the right, and on bars 9 through 12, the stereo guitars go to a trilling pattern. I don't think I've ever talked about trilling on this show, George. That's when you take the pick, and how would you explain trilling, except them listening to the parts?
Yeah. Like when you take the pick and kind of just, is it like rubbing on the strings, the kind of right thing?
I guess so. It's like, I don't know. It's the equivalent of treading water, and I'll leave it at that. I don't know how else to explain it, but Chris will play the clip, and we'll hear exactly what trilling is. And then after that trilling pattern, the band all stops and rings out. And then there's another hi-hat 4-count, which brings us into verse 1. And I want to ask you, my guess is that you guys were doing what we did at that time period, okay? Early 90s, you had a warehouse. Hey, it's Tuesday night. We're having practice tonight at 7 o'clock. Everyone gets there and you start writing songs. Someone has a riff idea, or were you guys doing demos at this time?
At that time, I think we were still doing the messing with new ideas at practice. I think we were still at that point where everyone was coming to practice and we were bouncing ideas off each other still.
Do you recall playing Shoot the Moon on the Who Is This Is tour, or was it written exclusively for Firme?
We were probably playing it on that tour because that's the way we did things back then, is if we had new songs, we would start playing them live to just kind of hone them in and see how the audience was going to react. And we were still kind of a new thing then, we still, even though we had Who Is This Is out and 7 Inches, we were still, considered like a new thing and still very much developing our sound,
Well, and of course, those first 7 inches, I'm sure they were all on a shoestring budget. Press, record, go, And finally, when you made Who Is This Is, I believe, did Brett produce that record?
No, Who Is This Is, I think, was Jim Goodwin.
Okay, and Jim's done some face-to-face stuff. I know Jim did the self-titled face-to-face and I want to say some Bad Religion stuff, possibly.
Right, yeah, that he was working, I think we did that one at Sound Castle, which is right.
Okay.
Yeah, right there next to Dodger Stadium, I believe.
Okay. And do you recall, I don't know too much. I know a lot about his productions, but I don't know too many people that have actually worked with Garth Richardson. But what was he like as a producer? Was he very hands-on, or was he just letting Voodoo Glow Skulls be who they were as 20-something kids?
He was hands-on, very cool guy, really great sense of humor. Of course, tons of experience, like obviously him and then his dad, before him. He was on top of everything, really easy to work with. He had just come off the Rage Against the Machine record and he liked the band and, was obviously wanted to work with us.
Horns aren't easy. Sorry to interrupt you.
No.
I just want to throw, especially as a young band, because if I could rewind time, well, I probably wouldn't change anything. But if I had a band come to me, a young band, and said, hey, we want to get a horn section, I'd say, first things first, can the three of you, bass, drums, and guitar, can you guys all play in tune?
Right.
Can you get the guitars in tune? Are the vocals somewhat in tune? Then you can get a horn, because horns are a nightmare to keep in tune. Okay, and we're talking in the studio in a controlled environment. Forget about getting out into, playing a snowboarding festival when it's freezing cold or playing the Warped Tour when it's super hot. It does all kinds of things with horns and tuning. Do you recall, like, Garth, because this is, prior to Pro Tools, there was no fixing and tuning stuff here. Was he a stickler? Because the horns sound really good on this track.
Now, to be honest with you, Pro Tools was a brand new thing when we were recording that. And they were cutting their teeth with Pro Tools because it was new and they were trying to learn it.
Ah, okay. But this would have been prior to tuning, though. Because Antares, they hadn't come out with auto-tune till probably 96 or 97.
Right. I just remember this. So we were recording, I can't remember what studio. Maybe it was... Where did we do that? Maybe West Beach. We did some of it, but I think I remember going to A&M maybe.
A&M was credited here as a studio, and Steve Kravac worked out of A&M at that time. That makes sense.
Okay, so there you go. So then I remember that. So it was A&M, But I remember going to another studio. I can't remember which one. And the bass player of Prong was him and this guy they called the French ass fucker were like the two Pro Tools guys. So, two engineers at this studio. They were up in this little closet, little tiny area upstairs with the Pro Tools rig. And they were cutting their teeth figuring out how to, I think how to do it. And they're the ones that basically tackled our horns. The rest of it, I think Garth, like we all wanted to take the approach he did with Rage Against the Machine, where the rhythm section came in to the studio with a full PA system and played live.
Wow. So that's how you guys cut this.
Yeah, because he had just done that with Rage Against the Machine,
That is okay. So the basic tracks were cut live off the floor. You're going to add the vocals in, the horns, any guitar overdubs or anything else you need afterwards. Very cool. I can't stand this common shit. Life's too fast for me. Everyone's trying so hard to impress. What is the real meaning of humanity? Morals and values are based upon your style of dress. Money in your pocket will become chump change if we don't make any progress. Success and fitness are the trend of today. Infomercials keep us all in touch with modern technology. Hey, 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 hey. And what's funny about that line, when I was reading that yesterday, George, I'm going, man, 1995, I remember every commercial was like, remember that dude with Tybo, Billy Blanks? He had his thing. And, Richard Simmons had his commercials, all the female exercise gurus and all those shows at the time. So that line really stuck out there. But what's going on here lyrically?
That era was an interesting era, like a lot of stuff going on, like the internet was about to blow up.
Yes.
And like, shopping from your home, and getting stuff delivered. That was all like in the near future. That was all like almost like conspiracy stuff that people were thinking, oh, it's all going to change to this. Like remember when calling cards came in, that was the Antichrist, right?
And heck, at the time on like Home Shopping Network, the only people that ever shopped on that was like grandmothers. My grandma shopped on it. So it wasn't like a cool thing to do.
Right. So yeah, we had all this interesting stuff going on then, like I said, all this stuff was about to like flip. I think OJ had just been acquitted that year, all this stuff going on, and so the lyrics, yeah, it was kind of like, almost like foreseeing what we were going to at the time. Everyone was so, like you said, involved in the way they looked and their fitness. And in the lyrics, it's kind of a reflection on, I guess, what was going on at the time and what was to come.
To hear you say that, it's like this whole era 30 years ago was a precursor to really what's going on now with social media. There's so much, it seems like more of this going on now than there ever has been.
Yeah, it seems like everything repeats themselves. Like I remember growing up and my parents going, oh, that fashion's in again. That was popular when we were a kid. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And, I'm doing it now. The kids are wearing, big baggy clothes again, like it was the 90s. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny.
It really is. And all the mullet haircuts and everything else coming back, it kills me. I'm like, man, I had that haircut 30 years ago.
Right.
And I knew it didn't age well. What are you doing?
Right. Lyrics are definitely about, like I said, all that. And then, the end, the hey, a little bit of Fat Albert thrown in there.
Okay. I never really got that. Of course, you guys have done stuff like Charlie Brown, so you like to have fun with kid songs and whatnot. That makes sense. Verse 1: drums, bass, stereo guitars, now playing super fast upstrokes, super distorted. This part's frenetic. The horns are interweaving horn lines and horn stabs. That's the other thing about you guys. I always loved the horn players. It wasn't so much it had to be the catchiest horn parts. Their stabs and the way they played horns, it was like percussive to me. They were like, you were getting like punched by the horns. That's the only way I can really describe it.
Right. Yeah. The early horn players, like I remember Joey, our original sax player, like literally, like saying like, this isn't the correct way to play the sax. It's supposed to be smooth. They had to battle against distorted guitars and, the Jerry's loud ass fucking snare and
right.
The bass.
And then at the time you had, I believe, Brody on trombone. And then trumpet was, I can see him. What's his name?
Joe.
Joe. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Joe. And we had Joey playing sax. That was, that was like considered the original horn section. We had other horn players before that, but it was, like a trumpet player, came in and played. And then we had another trombone player before Brody, the guy named Osh, who's like a tattoo artist now, but he sang for a hardcore band called Walk Proud back then. And then he ended up playing trombone on a few tours for us. He actually went on the Offspring tour with us. And then Brody came in after him.
Okay. And now Frank's vocals here, they were tracked after the band, or would he track with you and not keep a vocal take just to have a guide vocal?
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. After the line, what is really the meaning of humanity? There's a 2-bar musical break, the whole band in unison with 2 back-to-back snare rolls. Then we get into the second stanza of the verse, and after the line, if we don't make any progress, the band goes halftime for 2 bars. There's great horn stabs here. And then after the haze on the last line, the band goes halftime again for 2 bars to lead into chorus 1. The horn stabs are here again. Let's shoot the moon, shoot the moon, shoot the moon.
Really, like shoot the moon, just kind of like, like a fuck it, almost like let's wake up.
And that's the thing I love about music. I didn't have to know what this meant in 1995 to get in the pit, for it to rile me up. And I'm a lyric guy. I do love lyrics. I love them with all my heart. But the fact that this meant one thing to you, I had no idea until what you just told me.
Yeah, it's kind of like shoot the moon, like bing, like woo, let's go, kind of thing.
Okay. Awesome. Well, it's only taken me 30 plus years to figure that out. Thanks, George. The band goes, in the chorus here, the band goes to a new groove for 4 bars. Great hi-hat work here from Jerry before we hear any vocals. So here's the chorus. You drop into the groove, okay, but we don't hear any vocals for 4 bars. That's interesting.
Yeah, like I said, we're have our own approach, I guess, at writing songs. You know what I mean? A lot of I guess if you pay attention to a lot of commercial stuff, like on radio, a lot of the vocals tend to start right away, I guess.
Well, I never thought about this ever until I got to doing this songwriting podcast, where a vocal can start before the downbeat of a chorus. It can start on the downbeat of a chorus, or in this instance, it can start 4 bars later, which that's a long time. It's just, And when I see things like this, I analyze and I go, man, that's interesting. Was there ever any talk of the vocals coming in earlier, or was that the way it always was?
No, it's just the way it was written. When we talked about Garth earlier being involved, he did do some stuff like El Cucuy, for instance, the laughing part, the ha 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 ha.
Uh-huh.
That was in the song one time when we came into the studio, and he said, that's your hook for that song.
Oh, yeah.
So Garth's the one that basically made it a chorus, and said, we got to repeat this in the song.
I love that. And it sounds like here there might be another vocal of Frank singing unison or somebody else in the chorus. Do you remember that?
Yeah, me and Eddie have always sang, backups, and have always done back them up on certain lines or certain words throughout our catalog.
Right. Because there's no, and not that you need them, but there's no harmonies in this song.
Yeah, no, if you pay attention, a lot of the backup vocals are me and Eddie. And if you listen to the new album too, that's why the voice is still kind of there, because that's me and Eddie. People, they still come up and tell us, hey, you guys sound like your brother,
Well, and that's the other cool thing about you guys is you did have the 3 brothers, and you did kind of, you're going to sound like each other. You're brothers. And I always said that it's like the Interrupters are another band, 3 brothers in that band. And they're one of the tightest bands I've ever heard in my life. There's something about that synergy of siblings. It's definitely crazy. Before we hear any vocals here, the horn line really carries this chorus. And we are also joined by a few more unison vocals that I had just mentioned for this part. And the band at the end plays Alone Again for 4 bars at the end of chorus 1, and it goes straight into verse 2. And another note I had here, George, the guitar chords in this chorus, they're hypnotizing. If you just listen to the guitar chords, I feel like my eyes cross. Shoot the bow! Shoot the bow! Dent, It's just doing this thing, and it's awesome. My band never had that type of a groove. We're both ska punk bands, but I've never written like that. I love what the chords are doing there.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. Like I said, this is, I guess, different influences or something that come into play. I don't know, but Eddie definitely, has the approach with, again, it's not non-traditional in ska, distorted guitars, you know what I mean? Like that was one approach, you know what I mean? That he had coming in was that, not really so much as clean upstrokes. Now we do we'll do clean tracks and distorted tracks, you know what I mean? So it's a little bit different game now, but back then we were young and just kind of like, this is the way we're going to do it. And that was the sound for that time.
It's the Big Geek Podcast!
Hey everybody, don't go anywhere. We got lots more coming up with Jorge Casillas after a few words from our sponsors.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with a Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. Hey there, Chris DeMakes, podcast listeners. Ready to take your podcast experience to the next level? By signing up for the supporting cast at chrisdemakes.com, you not only ensure the continued production of our show, but also unlock exclusive perks. Subscribers receive a weekly bonus episode of our other podcast, The After Party, co-hosted by Chris Fafalius and myself. Many fans rave that The After Party is just as enjoyable as the main show. And with close to 200 music-centric episodes in the archive, there's a treasure trove of entertainment awaiting you. Thank you for tuning in and for your support in keeping the podcast going strong. Join us at chrisdemakes.com and let's keep the fun conversations going.
Shows right through your rocky skin. The only ones you're fooling.
And now, back to the show.
Verse 2 comes right off of chorus 1. We got a short verse here. And that's the other thing about this arrangement and why I had asked, how hands-on was Garth. In the early days, we would just write things. They would come out and you'd record them. You didn't really think much about it. And it just so happens that a lot of fans, they always gravitate to bands' early stuff. I don't care if it's Metallica, Aerosmith, Voodoo Glow Skulls, Less Than Jake. And they do that because there was just... We weren't thinking too much. You can really muck up and screw your songs up when you're like, it has to have a bridge here. Well, does it? And I love the arrangement here, as evidenced by verse 2. Very short here. Soon you will be shopping without leaving your front fucking door. My God, isn't that the truth? You guys are like prophets here. The cost of living is never going away. Jobs are fading and poverty is on the rise. After the third line, the cost of living is never going away. There's a 2-bar halftime break part again. And after the last line, poverty is on the rise, the verse goes for another round with no vocals. Then another 2-bar halftime setup. And where there's no vocals there, what was the thought there? Did Garth or anybody say, hey, why'd you stop singing? Because you could have more of a verse there. Very interesting part.
Yeah, I think we just wanted to let the riff breathe, like let the music breathe, a lot of times in our music, we very much grew up listening to, heavy metal, which the guitar and the riffs, they have to breathe, you know what I mean? They're a big part of it. And that's kind of the school we came up in, like first and foremost as kids, that was our first love. So a lot of the song structure, and a lot of that, the guitar stuff is definitely, straight influence from that stuff.
I hate to put music into all black and white X's and O's, but that's kind of what I do here. And a lot of times, George, I'll take a section and go, okay, this was 14 seconds. Okay, that's going to be, 4 bars of music roughly. And looking at this, verse 1, and then I went to verse 2. Verse 2 is not that much shorter. And I'm looking at it on the grid and I'm going, why is it so much shorter lyrically? It's because he stops there, which is very interesting. And that's something you touched on, letting the music breathe. I used to do that. It's hard to do that now because you sit and look and go, wait, shouldn't there be lyrics here? I'm a songwriter now, damn it.
Yeah, no, things change, obviously. And like you said earlier, like overthinking stuff sometimes is not a good thing to do. And when you're a kid, you're just so innocent. I guess you don't have that in you yet, where it's like, oh, there's a correct way to do things and an incorrect way to do things. Music's supposed to be art. So it's like, in my opinion, there is no correct way.
There isn't. And that's why I keep trying to figure out the answer. I like to find answers to things, and I've never found the answer, and I hope I never do.
I'm glad for that, though, because there's a lot of great stuff that has come out.
Hey, man, if we had the answer, we wouldn't keep searching, right? We wouldn't keep writing. I've talked to songwriters that have had massive hits, guys on this show, and why do they keep writing songs? You already had a 10 million seller. You got a big house in New York and LA. What more do you need? It's like, because this is inside us. That burning and that yearning for the next great song never goes away. Chorus 2.
Let's shoot the bow. Shoot the bow. Shoot the bow.
Same as chorus 1. Let's shoot the moon. Shoot the moon, shoot the moon. Same overall instrumentation and lyrics for chorus 2. We get the same 4-bar groove before the vocals kick in, but the end of the chorus goes straight into the bridge. I love this bridge, and I've really zoned in on 2 notes in this bridge that I want to know, did your brother just sing this like this, or did Garth have something? Because there's a little note hook that I feel is a big hook within this bridge. And the lyric is, 4 times in a row, jobs are fading and poverty is on the rise. Drums, bass, stereo guitars, and horns are all in here ripping your head off. First line, jobs are fading and poverty's on the rise. And the second one is poverty's on the rise, on. He goes up there. Do you remember that part? It's a very subtle thing, but for somebody on paper that you would say, oh, this guy's kind of barking, he's not singing, that 2-note thing there is such a hook to me.
Right. Yeah, no, that was just Frank on his own, to be honest with you. Garth really didn't push too much, like I said, on stuff like that. He really only just chimed in on El Cucuy because of that hook.
Yeah.
Everything else he kind of left alone, to be honest with you. The songs were kind of structured, for the most part on that record already, as they lied, except for El Cucuy,
And I got to ask you, did your brother come from a singing background, a rapping background, a little bit of both?
Not singing really. My brother grew up obviously listening to my parents' musical influences as a kid. He was, the firstborn. Then when he started getting older, getting into the stuff that he, would love, it was heavy metal first,
Sure.
and then he got into like the mod stuff and the two-tone stuff, but the singing, there was never really that. He was a DJ, like he DJ'd like during like the like Debbie Deb and all that kind of like what would be, I think, mine and yours, like junior high school dance music.
I guess what I'm getting at is this part, and I've seen it so many times, I'm sure you have, with singers in the studio, and they'll get so frustrated. You're like, no, man, the first time's fine. The way you sing, it's great. But the second time, on the rise, on that note. And they'll get up in front of the mic and they'll sing it exactly like the first line again. They can't hear that one note differentiation. And that part really stuck out here. I was like, wow, I wonder if that was just Frank getting up there and that's what came out, or if Garth had to work with him on that. It seems like a very small piece, but to me, it's a huge part of the song.
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, like I said, it's, definitely producers, are known for doing that kind of stuff. But in this case, it was already kind of written that way. And, he was already kind of doing it, like, when we were practicing the song and all that stuff. But yeah, no, you're right. Like stuff like that to me as well. To me, that's like definitely a vocal hook, and
oh yeah.
Just like there's drum hooks and there's like, and now we pay attention to more of that stuff. Like if there's like like on our last record, there was like some drum stuff and I literally told our drummer, hey, do that more. That's your hook. And it ended up working out, but it took years of working with producers like Garth and watching them do little things here and there like that, to start kind of getting in that mind frame.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, the bridge is probably my favorite part of the song. It's just pummeling. It's so good. After the bridge, we get a 16-bar full band reintro, but unlike the intro, the band doesn't stop before the verse here. And man, this verse hits so hard because of that. Was there ever a talk about having the stop here or taking it out at the top and just going into the verse? Or this is how it was written?
Yeah, well, we are conscious of that stuff, which is, I think we purposely did that to not be the same as the rest of them.
It's awesome. I love it.
Right. One of the things we definitely do, like in the earlier stuff, going from like, let's say a straight up fast hardcore part straight to a ska breakdown, just out of left field, out of nowhere, with no roll going in, no nothing, just blam blam. It was just something that we just kind of were like, you know what? Let's do it a little bit different going into this next change. You know what I mean? Just to kind of catch people by surprise.
It's awesome. And until I got the song under the microscope here, this part never jumped out at me until now. I'm like, that's awesome. It just goes right into it. It just hits you really hard for verse 3. Same overall instrumentation from the band here, and we get the same exact lyrics as verse 1, which I have a feeling there's so much information here. Your brother's just spitting. The only time we really get any lyrical relief is the hook in the chorus, "Let's shoot the moon." Is that why you repeated verse 3?
To be honest with you, I don't remember exactly, but I think it just made sense to just repeat the first verse, just because of, what it's saying.
A lot of times when I look back at verses that were repeat in early Less Than Jake songs, it was because Vinny wrote the lyrics at the time and he didn't have something. It's time to sing. They just press record. I got to get in the vocal booth and do this. But a lot of times it's just about the information and what it says. You want to say it again. And these lyrics are great. I can't stand this common shit. Life's too fast for me. Everyone's trying so hard to impress. What is the real meaning of humanity? Morals and values are based upon your style of dress. Money in your pocket will become chump change if we don't make any progress. We get a 2-bar halftime break to set up chorus 3. Same instrumentation and lyrics as the previous chorus here. After the last Shoot the Moon, we go right into what I'm calling now, George, a post-chorus. It's just the bridge repeated again, but I'm calling it a post-chorus here.
Let's shoot the hole. Shoot the hole. Shoot the hole. John Duffin and Providence on the right. John Duffin and Providence on the right. John Duffin and Providence on the right. John Duffin and Providence on the right.
Jobs are fading and poverty's on the rise. Same as the bridge, music and lyrics, but calling it a post-chorus. We get those note fluctuations that I pointed out going up on the second and fourth lines. And then we get the outro of this song, 24 bars. It's the full intro that happens again that stops like the top of the song. We get the stop here like before verse 1, but this time it goes for 8 more bars. On bars 17 through 20, we get the trilling pattern again from the stereo guitars, and then the band rings out. And we get a little drum solo from Jerry, and then everything ends there. The drummers can't help themselves, George. They have to get the last hit in there. It's like the kid at the class play getting the last clap in.
Right.
Well, do you recall that part of how you wanted to end this song? Because I imagine you were playing it live, and as we know, a lot of times live doesn't work in the studio and vice versa. So was this kind of how it went down when you recorded it? I'm assuming you recorded it a bunch of times. Did he Frankenstein parts together when you all cut the tracks live?
I think so. Like we definitely did the songs, more than once to pick the better part of this one and that one. But the intro of the song and the outro of the song, it's just we wanted it to, hit hard again. Like I said, we've always been that band, that likes having intros and outros and stuff like that. That's kind of the school we came from. And coming out of that song, we were just like, let's just keep it heavy and groovy and nice and solid coming out.
To your knowledge, have you guys played Shoot the Moon at every VGS show since you recorded it?
Yes, pretty much. I think, like, for the most part, I've always been kind of like the set list writer,
Yeah.
And I think I forgot to put it on maybe, I know one time for sure, like we
get to the end of the set, the whole band's like, dude, where's Shoot the Moon?
No, recently. And like, I remember afterwards going up to my brother Eddie and going, dude, we didn't even play Shoot the Moon. And we both like kind of looked at each other like we hadn't realized it. I said, I forgot to put it in there. So yeah, but we have such a big catalog, man. It's definitely Shoot the Moon is one of the songs everybody, wants to hear. Let's say, I guess,
I was gonna say, if I was at the show, I would have wanted my money back, man. That's the song.
Yeah. It was surprising because I was like, wow, like nobody really noticed, or, you know what I mean? Like, especially us, because, as musicians, we're so critical of ourselves and our live performances, and it's
all the time.
It's almost like a self-satisfied, there could be 10,000 people telling me how awesome it was. If I wasn't self-satisfied, you know what I mean?
I've always said that you get off the stage soaking wet. You're like, man, I just phoned that in. I was awful tonight. And the kid comes up, man, that was awesome. You guys were great. And you're like, thanks.
Yeah, I've seen you 100 times and that was the best time.
And you're like, how, man? Well, you got cotton in your ears? What's going on? In total, Voodoo Glow Skulls has released 10 full-length albums, the most recent being 2021's Livin' the Apocalypse, Ephraim, his vocal debut on a record. And the album came full circle, man, back on Dr. Strange Records for this one. And you guys have also put out, as we said, a slew of EPs, rarities albums, as well as being featured on too many compilations to list. So moving forward, what's happening with Voodoo Glow Skulls?
We got some dates coming in August to Mexico. We recently just got back from Chile and Colombia, which is awesome. We're in talks right now to go to Australia in December. We're doing a festival with Living End and Hey Smith from Japan. And then
Nice.
doing a couple of club dates with Hey Smith and then a few shows on our own. I think we're already talking about next summer festivals in Europe, in the UK.
Hey Smith's one of those bands that they were the small little band in Japan 10 years ago opening for us, and now we're begging to get on shows with them in Japan. They're huge.
Did a run with them, and it was like, I think they had the #1 record on the charts that week.
So awesome.
Beat out the Rolling Stones in Japan, which is crazy for, again, a ska punk band.
Yeah.
Great band, man. Like, the show is insane. The crowd is insane. Like, we did I think 5 shows with them, and every single show was just off the hook,
That's rad. Well, listen, man, thanks for sitting in. I know we've been trying to coordinate this for a minute. It's always good to see you, and I hope to get to play some shows with you sooner than later, man.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you for having me, man, and always great to talk to you. And hopefully we see each other again real soon, man.
Hands up, living the apocalypse. Don't shoot, this is not the way to live. Mask up, living in this world. All the happy boys and girls can't breathe, trapped in the system. Won't leave, stand up against them. Locked down, gotta break free. Your world is my misery. Break down the walls, but I can't.
Hey, everybody, I hope you all enjoyed that conversation with George, but don't go anywhere. We got the band you might not know in the rap segment coming right up after a few words from our sponsors.
Hi, I'm Daniela Clark,
I'm Barbara Ann Wild.
and we are the Honest AF Show.
Our podcast is real, honest conversation with our celebrity friends and pros,
Covering our anything but average rock and roll lifestyles.
all while tackling the hell that is aging and the battle of beauty.
Oh, yeah, nothing is off the table.
The Honest AF Show is available wherever you get your podcasts.
One Hit Thunder is a podcast where we both celebrate and have a good laugh about bands and artists that had just one hit that we all know. Each week, we're joined by a guest from the world of music or comedy to learn more than you ever thought you would about some songs that you can't forget. And we decide if they brought the One Hit Thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit blunder. Look, if you listen to the show, you're probably going to laugh, and I guarantee you're going to crush next time the bar has music trivia. Tag Team, Jane Child, Meredith Brooks, Looking Glass, Sean Mullins, Eiffel 65, EMF, Crash Test Dummies, Crazy Town, Chumbawamba. We have hundreds of episodes in our back catalog and a new episode each week, so pass the Dutchie, make sure you're connected, and subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your pods.
As we near the end of the show, here's a band you might not know.
Welcome to this week's Band You Might Not Know. If you'd like your band to be considered for Chris DeMakes a Podcast, email your best song via MP3 only and a short bio to bandyoumighttnotknow@gmail.com. This week's featured artist is Hartwells, a 4-piece punk rock band from Long Beach, California, where the sun, sand, city, and punks meet to party. The band consists of Justin Toch on vocals and guitar, Moki on bass and vocals, what's up my friend, Chris Stout on drums and vocals, and Sam Peterson on guitar and vocals. Here's a snippet of their song, Coasted.
The Wrap with Chris and Chris.
Chris, that was a lot of fun. I could tell that you and George have been buds for a long time. I'll tell you, the thing about the Voodoo Glow Skulls, and I first got a Voodoo Glow Skulls CD from I think I ordered it from the back of a skateboard catalog in the 90s. Nobody else sounds like them. They are the only band that sounds like the Voodoo Glow Skulls.
No, I don't know if I had said that to him. I had it somewhere in my notes. Yeah, they're definitely unique. They had something... they wrote a lot of songs in kind of minor keys. Their horns acted percussive. They had, Frank had that barking delivery, but they also had that Hispanic component with the accents. I don't know, to this little white boy from Florida, they were kind of scary. They didn't sound safe.
Dude, they're definitely, I heard you use the word frenetic at one
Yes.
point. I think that's a good descriptor. Chaotic might be another way to describe them. And then another thing, I started thinking that I was going to say they sound a little apocalyptic, but I was like, that sounds kind of like, I don't know. That doesn't sound like a compliment to them. But then I realized their newest album is called Live in the Apocalypse. And I was like, okay, I'm going to say they sound a little apocalyptic or something, like if the world was burning and on fire, this would be the sound of it. And I would be willing to bet they would take that as a compliment.
Well, yeah. I mean, just look at the lyric in verse 2. Soon you will be shopping without leaving your front fucking door.
Prophetic.
30 years ago, and here we are. And again, it was starting then with home shopping, but it was for old people then. And now drive by any neighborhood, there's packages on every door. It's just the way things are now.
I'm guilty of it.
You're part of the problem, Chris.
I might be.
I've always loved Glow Skulls from the first time I heard them. Like you said, they were different. Their live show was great. As we all were, we were young and invincible. They were crazy. They liked to have a couple beers after the show. We had such good times with these guys, and they're finding this resurgence, I'll call it, but it's just enough years have passed. If you're a working band that put in the effort, put in the work, you're going to reap the rewards. People are having kids. They're bringing them to the show. And I think their band, I can speak for less than Jake. I've said this, that I think our band is bigger now because we've just been around that long. Same thing with the Glow Skulls. Getting a Hollywood Bowl show 36, 37 years into your career is pretty cool.
Yeah. Opening for a band that is like a big band of the moment. Hey, any band's going to have their moment when they're big, and then they might have a big illustrious career after that. But Vampire Weekend's like a band playing on Saturday Night Live this past season. You know what I mean? Like, they're very of the moment. That's really, really cool. And yeah, you'll see people from big bands now or whatever that are like, yeah, I came up loving ska punk. Everybody kind of stems from punk rock in one way or another. At least I've found a lot of people one way or another were influenced by it. Another thing I thought was pretty cool in this episode, Chris, we've heard a lot of people talk about it, but George talked a little bit about how when you're young, you just do what feels natural when you're writing a song. We talk about it all the time, how it's hard to go back to that. And he said, it's supposed to be art, and there isn't a right way or wrong way to do it. Now, I know it feels like at this point, I've learned so many things that I can't unlearn. Mm-hmm. It's impossible to unlearn things that feel like the right way to go about it. And it'd be nice if maybe you could forget once in a while what the right way and wrong way to write something is.
Well, and for anybody out there listening who is in a band, you can know how tumultuous it can get in the studio and why the arguments happen, because art is objective,
Yeah.
And it's like, what one man's treasure is another, or, one man's the trash, other person's treasure. So in this instance, it's kind of off that same thing. Glow Skulls. Less Than Jake toured with them last summer. Hadn't seen them in a hot minute, and Ephraim just kicks the crap out of the vocals. I'll say it again. Frank's the way he put his vocals together, no one sounded like him, and to step into those shoes, very, very, very difficult to fill.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Hey, I wanted to ask you. You had to have told me this at some point. Who's the set list writer in your band? He mentioned that at the end, that he's the set list writer. Who writes the set list in Less Than Jake?
You are looking at him. Unless I write a set list and Roger woke up on the wrong side of the bed that day, give me that thing. And then he'll start making changes. That happens probably once or twice a year. But I've typically, kind of taken charge on the track listing of our records in the past, as well as the set lists. So
that can get contentious. Track listing.
Oh yeah.
I'm currently in those talks with my band, and it hasn't gotten too bad yet, but it's kind of like now more than ever, whatever is track number 1. It used to be track 3 or 4 were the most important. Now it's track 1.
Oh yeah.
What song is going to lead the record off. That's the most important.
Go look at any record now on Spotify. Track 1, 17,000 plays. Track 2, 642 plays. Track 3, 123 plays.
Yeah, exactly.
And so on and so forth. Hey, if you haven't already, go over and join us at chrisdemakes.com, where you can get bonus episodes of the After Party where Chris and I will talk to you even more. That's right. You get a bonus episode each week, and you're helping support the podcast. You know and love chrisdemakes.com. Go check it out. And anything else, Chris? What am I missing?
Hey, if you like the podcast, we say this every week, go on Apple Podcasts or Spotify and leave us a 5-star review. We love reading these reviews. I'm going to read one right now on the podcast. So, hey, if you go leave us a review, maybe we'll read it at the end, like we're about to read from. I don't know where these people come up with these names on here, man. This, unless this is this person's real name, which I really hope it's not. But this one's from Poop Squad McGee.
Okay.
Who gave us 5 stars and wrote, "This is a great podcast. Chris and Chris really care about their guests and are truly excited for every episode. If you're a fan of LTJ, or Punchline for that matter, they bring the same energy to the podcast. Chris interviews very well-known artists as well as more unknown artists. He gives others the chance to get bigger through his podcast. I could go on, but I'll stop there. I can't say enough good things. But hey, maybe you won't like it. Whatever."
Okay.
I'll take it. 5 stars.
Yeah, 5 stars. He kind of tried to reel it into the end there, but Poops McGee, thank you. Poops McGee, was that his name?
Poop Squad McGee.
Poop Squad McGee. All right. Keep those reviews coming. We love it. I want to thank this week's guest, Mr. Jorge Casillas, for sitting in with us, and we'll catch you next week. Hey, friends. Have you been loving Chris DeMakes a podcast? Well, spread the love by leaving a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Don't hesitate to share what you enjoy about the show in an actual written review on Apple Podcasts. Not only does it help more people discover us, but we often read reviews in the rap segment of the show. It's a quick, cost-free way to support us and takes just a minute of your time. Your reviews mean the world to us and help us keep the podcast thriving. Thank you for being a listener, and thank you for being a friend.
This is the story of Whitney Houston.
This is the story of Kurt Cobain.
Of George Michael, of Otis Redding, of Amy Winehouse, of Michael Hutchence, Bob Marley. This is the story of Prince.
It's a new podcast series
about how they died, why they died, and why we're still talking about them so long after.
It's like nothing you've ever heard before.
It's storytelling.
But it's more than that, because rock stars,
they tell us how we feel. They change our mood.
They change the clothes we wear, the people we hang out with,
the way we remember things.
It's them who give us those ludicrous moments, the ones where you're
jumping around, singing your heart out, feeling understood.
And it's those moments we'll help you remember, the ones you're thinking about right now.
That feeling.
That feeling.
It's coming soon from Crowd Network.
Just search for Death of a Rock Star on your podcast app.
And subscribe now.
Hey, what's up? My name's Lurk, and I'm the host of Lambgoat's Van Flip podcast. Every week I have in-depth conversations with bands from all over the scene, big and small. We also like to keep our finger on the pulse and showcase up-and-coming bands on the show as well. So come check out Lambgoat's Van Flip podcast.